Hello, this is John again, back here to talk about the final level in Nimbatus. In the first video, we talked about the actual level itself, so we had a kind of an idea of the problem space we were dealing with. And in this video, we're going to talk about the drone that I ended up building to get through the final level, and then kind of see the drone in action. Although it won't be in the final level because due to various Nimbatus situations, I can't replay the final level with this drone, so we'll just look at it in action in a random level in Galaxy 4. So here's the drone itself. It's kind of got, a lot of sensors and its own little separate computing system and whatever, but we'll go through and talk about system by system what's going on, so it kind of makes sense when you see it in action and later in the video. The first module we're going to talk about is the stabilizer, which features 4 small thrusters on the outer edges of the drone to provide the maximum torque, and it has a directional sensor on the top in the middle there to determine whether it needs to rotate clockwise or counterclockwise relative to gravity to keep it upright as it traverses that spiral mess that is the final world. On the bottom left of the drone, you can see 2 upgraded lasers that can deal with mining and 2 distance sensors that are set to detect enemies as well as projectiles. It's on a spinner, so it'll constantly rotate around and keep scanning for hostiles and keep, mining out any chunks of Earth that might otherwise get the drone stuck while it's trying to navigate. To help deal with enemies and mining through the Earth to deal with clusters of mines, there are 2 factories that build out drones with upgraded long lasers on them. And those drones will kind of move toward the closest enemy. And you can kind of see some computing modules on there. After 30 seconds, they will shut down, and then 5 seconds later, they will self-destruct to kind of keep the frame rate from getting too low. Originally, I had some issues where there were just so many lasers going that the game would almost lock up. So we added some self-destruction and cleanup modules to them. The rest of the defense system is taken care of by those rocket launchers on the front and the back of the ship that pretty much constantly shoot. The energy and fuel for the drone are printed with a factory that sits above the drone. The fuel cells and large batteries get printed and then get carried off into space with the 2 little engines on the top of it. The factory itself also has an engine attached to that decoupler slightly below the factory, and it also goes off into space to kind of just keep the play area clear from all the excess energy that gets printed. The whole operation's controlled by these 20 or so logic modules that kind of manage the state and deal with sensor input. But as you can see, they're also attached to a decoupler, so we'll drag them out from between the Nimbatus and the container and then drop it on the ground. So it's also, like with the energy module, kind of just keeps all these pieces clear from where I need to deliver the engine eventually. On the bottom in the center there is a large magnet that turns on when the proximity sensor attached to it, which is that big red circle, detects the engine, and it just kind of turns on and stays on until the end, basically, where you can see those 2 diagonal directional sensors on the sides. When both of those detect the container under it, the magnet will turn off and drop the engine into the container, ending the game. The only other pieces on this drone are some shields and a few engines that just weren't really worth talking about because they either do things like, go right when you detect ground to the left, or go up when you detect ground below you, stuff like that. And the ones that will eventually turn on and take the drone back to the container at the end. So without further ado, let's see this thing in action.